surprisingly, they banned that late game AD carry from Doublelift. They banned the Jace away from Nien. And wow, would you believe it, ZionSpartan's Riven got banned out as well.
And the Gragas, which is like the champion he had played that wasn't
one of his 2 wins.
The win. They're targeting him a little bit for good reason. The Tristana ban as well was actually the most banned AD carry against CLG, and then that now makes 15 of 21 games where Link has not been allowed to play Twisted Fate.
So over 70% now at this point. The Zed dropped away from Shiphtur. So just like last game, the Elise locked in early on, and it's going to go to Zion or Nintendo.
Yeah, and did you know that in all but 2 games, Elise has been picked or banned in the North American LCS? I don't know the 2 games that he wasn't picked.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And
it stays true, which is why he's first picked right now. It's just because it's such a contested champion, and Nien has had some of his best games on Elise.
Yeah, so here we go. No Spider-Man here for Nien, and they're like, they've got to assume, because every team knows what bans they're going to bring out coming into a game. Very few are surprised by their own bans here. So Nien, I think CLG would have come in this one expecting they're probably going to first pick Elise off of this one. We know what their likely pickup is, and they're prepared to grab everything else here for Nien and Big Fat and whatnot.
Yeah, and the last couple weeks also, CLG's had those pick ban like sheets that are printouts that Monte Cristo, their coach, has been giving them. So hopefully things are going according to plan right now, and hopefully they're following the process, because, I mean, there's been some complaints from Monte in the past that they haven't been doing that, but hopefully they got things locked down now.
And also, speaking of the earlier topic about players making strides mid-season, we have the Chauster Thresh coming back in. They're feeling more confident pulling this champion out despite no other support bans.
And it's actually his most played support. This is his 9th time playing Thresh. Every time I say this, Kobe's like, he's actually really good at Thresh, but I still feel like he's very inconsistent on that champion. But with the Zac and the Thresh now, those are 2 of the highest control, like midline teamfight control champions they could pick early, which is a good start for CLG, as they usually revolve around protecting Link and Doublelift.
Well, speaking of someone needing protection, though, look at Coast picking up the Twitch here for DontMashMe. Now, thinking like way back when, in their initial qualifier, they ran a lot of Twitch back then with like sort of Divine, but they've also grabbed an Ahri for a lot of pick potential as well.
I like those picks specifically for Coast. Shiphtur does excel on champions who are capable of assassinating. That's why he's played so much Zed this season. And then getting the Shen just now for ZionSpartan is tremendous for them. His victory, one of his victories against CLG, was because he got about 400 armor against CLG and just tanked Doublelift the whole game.
So we'll see if he can tank Doublelift this time around. Then the last lock-in as well is going to be Daydreamin's Nami, one of his more popular. So the lineup is here for Team Coast.
Wow.
Counterlogic Gaming ready to protect Doublelift with the Orianna pickup. And now it's time for the AD carry.
Every once in a while, you look at a team comp and you just say, that's a lot of good things. You can't really explain, first off, like why it all works well together, but it's just a lot of scary champions that Coast is being locked in. Whereas when you look at CLG, it's kind of the same thing. Like, both of these compositions have a lot of synergy with themselves, in a sense that they have the Ballista combo, Zac Orianna, which a lot of teams actually aren't using together anymore. They have 2 areas of threat instead of just putting it on top of himself. It's so much teamfight control from CLG here.
You know, some people actually have complained that it should be pronounced Ballista to help like emphasize the Orianna part of it. Just a completely random aside.
No, that's a good point.
So Ballista, and it's going to be, looks like another blonde hair champion here for the CLG lineup. It's going to be Doublelift on Ezreal, so got a bunch of assassins. So I'm going to go kite you guys.
I agree. I think Doublelift's Ezreal is his strongest AD carry. Every time he gets blue Ezreal, since they take the game out long enough, he just seems to add to control. Like, whenever CLG can get enough teamfight control, they seem to win games. And if you look at this composition, they have that. Like, they don't have a huge amount of upfront damage, but I think they have the ability to outlast Coast. So I prefer the CLG composition here, even though Coast composition, as I said, they look really scary.
They are really scary, and I just like the fact that Coast will be locked up for like 5 straight seconds during this team comp. Like, you get knocked up by Jarvan, and then Zac hits you twice, and Orianna shockwaves you, and you're like, at some point we can start doing damage, but I guess we're dead. And
that's actually what they need to keep Elise and Ahri in check so that they can't get through. And also, I feel like Doublelift has enough smarts to outmaneuver at least Zion and Nintendude, as long as CLG can keep Shiphtur's Ahri in place.
And he's been actually, I would say, some of the most successful on Ezreal. Look at the All-Star game. His pentakill there was on Ezreal. Actually, just last week, he got a quadra kill on Ezreal. He's been putting up a lot of great performances on that champion. I feel like for someone to outmaneuver enemy champions, Doublelift Ezreal is one of the top ones for it.
He's just so good on that champion. And this game is so important for both of these teams. 7th place, but only 2 games back from 3rd is where Coast is sitting, and then CLG 3rd place, but 2 games back from 7th. The winner of this game, they're just going to collide with each other very soon if Coast manages to win and CLG loses. So both from a distancing perspective and a saving a season perspective, it's a big game for both these teams.
You're absolutely right. If Coast wins here, they tie Nientonsoh for 6th. They actually basically get themselves into the playoffs at that point if they can win out. So here we go, guys. Coast in the bottom left, CLG in the top right, wearing the red. And it's going to be time for these teams to determine where they want to go early on in the game. But maybe they need some time. They're gonna take a quick break. They're gonna pause this one out, figure out what's going on right there. But
it's taking a drink. The last split, they finished 4th.
Yeah.
Lost to Vulcan in the velocity in the relegation match, and then they beat Azure Cats in the relegation to stay in. So they're actually in close to the same spot they were last split at this moment in the season.
Which is interesting to look at too, because you've added Cloud9, who have kind of dropped everyone one spot down. No. But Nien's about to face check, gets spotted right there. They charm him up. Will they go for more damage? Looks like not too much right there, forcing CLG back from this one. Looks like they didn't burn too many cooldowns on the big tank.
That could have been really dangerous.
Yeah.
If Daydreamin was in range for a bubble. Oof. Because he could have timed that just right to lock Nien down, but specifically because they didn't get the bubble, they didn't want to focus Nien in a level 1 fight just because the blob passives are so damn hard to kill at level 1, and there would have been too much distraction in the level 1 fight that I don't think they could have converted that into a winning fight.
So then good news all around by these guys. Coast, though, walking right through a ward, and they don't know necessarily that they've been standing on top of it. They've been pinged out. CLG knows exactly what's going on. And actually, you can see the champion models right there. That's the view of CLG. They know exactly what Coast are up to, that they are still kind of retreating down to the side.
I feel like Coast has a lot of superiority at level 1 if they want to try to find a fight. Because even though CLG has Chauster's potential death sentence from Thresh, that's no match for Charm Bubble combo if Coast were to catch anyone. Because ZionSpartan could just taunt for good measure at the end and finish locking them down. That's why I feel like CLG is invading a lot. There's very scattered wards throughout the map here, but at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't really either. Of course, CLG, though, looking to put pressure on this left side blue buff. ZionSpartan is here to help defend Zion, but they might force the smite out of this one. Heck, they're going for the flay. Nintendo down to half HP right now.
That was actually great level 1 planning by CLG here, because Coast does not have enough aid for Nintendo to take this blue buff. Chauster alone is stopping him from getting that, and Doublelift isn't even losing farm. That was all made possible because bigfatlp completely soloed his red buff. Huge props to CLG there at level 1.
And actually, at the same time, Nien is actually soloing the wolf camp in the top side of the jungle, knowing he's fighting a 2-on-1, saying, I don't even want to take XP. I'll get this, recall, come back.
Yeah, we have to see how this impacts the rest of the CLG game plan, because that is something that is definitely pre-planned at level 1 and was definitely executed well. Even now, bigfatlp going straight for blue, maybe Nintendude can make something back, because instead of starting at blue buff, like if Nien could have taken this blue buff and stopped NintendudeX from getting the blue back, but because he didn't, it actually seems like they're going to end up just trading.
He does want to defend this, though. The problem is he is vastly outnumbered, even worse than the other blue buff here. So Daydreamin helped out Nintendude. Nintendude did burn his smite, though. So random steal, potentially possible, I guess.
I think it's possible, but far too dangerous for Nien to go for that. Plus, Nien wanted to get his XP. What is developing, though, is the level 1 ZionSpartan maybe getting tower dove by CLG here. They throw the exhaust down. They got to go.
They got the flay. They got the knockup as well. A lot of damage. Death Sentence comes across, but he taunts across the enemy team. Chauster, one hit from dead. If he had ignited, that was a kill, but he might pick up bigfatlp. No, he gets out of turret range. ZionSpartan survives a 1v3.
That was very clutch for him. I have to say, not the cleanest gank by CLG. Since ZionSpartan taunted Chauster while he was in turret range, Chauster got away with, like when I checked his health, it was at 8. 8. Which means he would have been a little bit lower to do it. That's happened a couple times.
So a lot of carries eventually there for the Counter Logic Gaming. And there we go. The Nintendude gank on the right-hand side does pay off. Turret goes down. However, look at that. Even with the gank failing, they got one back for CLG.
So let's recap what happened just a little bit before the pause here. ZionSpartan was 1v3 against CLG, and CLG tried a 3-man gank. Chauster almost died, bigfatlp almost died, but because they got enough damage on ZionSpartan, they were still able to take the tower afterwards. Meanwhile, Coast didn't even attempt to dive on Nien. Nien never gave him the opportunity, and they're just now both split pushing up the side lanes.
And look at this matchup, because Chauster, because he's been forced to recall, is defending, so a 3-on-2, an awkward 3-on-2. It's top lane support fighting. Here we go, guys. Chauster and Nien trying to defend that top side turret. We had 3-on-1 lanes. We had the outer turrets for the right and left-hand side lanes go down. And here it's time for the adaptation for these guys. Coast making a move towards the mid lane, the 4-on-1 on Link.
Yeah, and they have had a lot of time to think about this. No time to talk about it, though, because they're not allowed to speak during that 20-plus minute pause. And they have to restart themselves here. There's only been a trade in this game so far. It's starting, essentially, at 5 minutes.
And here we go. It's going to be the Jarvan defending as well. And, of course, remember at the same time that Doublelift is still keeping ZionSpartan company on the left-hand side. So Double's actually going to leave right here with 33 minion kills. We'll see him make his early purchases. Vamp Scepter, all right. And the early buys have come in now. So,
all right,
very equal game right here. We talk about this, right? One turret down on each side, no kills on each side. Gold 100 apart, and we have a new reality here. We have a game that's pretty much reset. Lanes can do what they want. Zion could freeze and wait till level 6. A lot of options open for these teams.
Yeah, and they... I've heard as well just now from our producer that they were allowed to talk after about the first 6 or 7 minutes of the pause.
Oh.
So it wasn't just, let's see who can remember our strategy for the longest in the situation in the game. At least they'll have a bit of plans for that. We got to reset ourselves, too, to this game. So it's...
Koreans. No.
It's now about... no, definitely not. It's now about ZionSpartan catching up in his farm.
Gets done.
And the rest of Coast working it.
Look at that charm as well. Link the flash forward. First blood, don't mash me. Every skill shot landed there. Coast, wonderful job.
And Coast is actually roaming around a lot right now as a squad of 4. That was the second aggressive mid lane tower dive. It actually looks like they're trying to shut down Link right now in CLG strategy as ZionSpartan catches up.
Here we go, though. The wave clear, though, from CLG really stopping all that. Even Double's been sort of brought in there with that lantern. So Coast trying to do a bit of pushing, though no one's taking the right-hand side lane farm. Charm lands on a Chauster. Holy crap, the damage output. Would you believe that one? MashMe with 2 kills early on.
And we got to remember, this is 4 Coast members in the mid lane with the ability to chain crowd controls with each other. If they get a Charm, Bubble, or a NintendudeX Cocoon, they just chain 1 to 2 to 3 and get the kills. That's very dangerous for CLG when they're trying to counter siege, and they've lost 2 kills because of it.
Really beautiful stuff there. A huge gold spike coming in there. Even though he's down 7 minion kills, you know DontMashMe's got more gold than Doublelift right here. And Zion, look at the top laners. Zion's level 6. He was soloing that whole time. And Nien is still 4. I assume he's close. Hey, he leveled. Great. He was close to leveling. But a clear advantage here for Zion. He's going to really enjoy that.
And this means farm time for CLG. Specifically when ZionSpartan hits level 6, the ability for CLG to initiate fights safely goes way down.
There's actually something I want to point out as well is a lot of people tend to use like the Shen Stand United as an opportunity to push his turret down, but that turret's already down, so Nien has nowhere to go.
He's just going to farm. He's going to farm.
He is going to farm. Yeah.
As best he can.
Nice.
He needs to get a lot of farm on that Zac in order to create enough of a frontline like sustaining fight for CLG, since they're going to be most likely going for the high utility outmaneuverability with their overall team comp.
We'll see if they can bring this one out right here. DontMashMe, though, has a beautifully frozen lane right here. And we'll see him probably, I feel like he's going to skyrocket in minion kills as the minions keep flooding into him and his waves just keep dying out right here. We'll see if Doublelift can catch up. We talked in the pregame about how CLG just have always had a rough time in the bottom lane against Team Coast. Only 5 kills for Doublelift. DontMashMe's been huge overall, and that might just still be happening.
And it's weird because they're not even really laning against each other. DontMashMe got the lanes because Coast as a team was able to pick out CLG just in middle as they were grouping up. Doublelift was actually ahead in farm to DontMashMe, and he needs his team to help him as always. That's the reason Doublelift has the most kills as well in the LCS, is while he can out-farm most other AD carries straight up, it's the later game farm where he really gets going.
And speaking of getting going, Nien is actually trying to put some pressure onto ZionSpartan right there. A lot of sustain on Zac keeps him pretty safe. So we'll see if Doublelift can get going. He's now pretty much tied in minion kills to MashMe, 70 to 72. MashMe going for the early Blade of the Ruined King. You're seeing that get partially completed for him, but the lane is now starting to push back. So pretty soon CLG will get to play that farm game. So my question is then, because CLG wants to play so late game, do Coast keep trying to make moves then, control dragons and turrets and whatnot?
I'm not sure, actually.
Okay.
I think Coast is still deciding that themselves. They need to figure out how much confidence they have in their own late game ability Because if I look at CLG's composition, I don't want to go late game against that necessarily. So it does seem as if once Shiphtur gets a little bit more breathing room in the mid lane, he should look to move around and force the objectives, because yeah, that's going to be the mindset that Coast is in for this game. They have to do that Gambit Gaming versus EG where they beat them faster than CLG can farm up.
They're looking for it right here, though. They had 1,000 gold lead. That's going to be 2,000 gold. Well, 1,800 to be technically accurate here as they take down the Dragon, and no contest at all there. ZionSpartan, the blue ward there, or sorry, the pink ward there to keep the vision away from CLG. The ZionSpartan split push there, and Shiphtur is able to hold up in minion kills so far. So because a lot of that early game pressure, he's actually keeping up to Lincoln minion kills.
Yes.
Their 80 carries keeping up as well. Heck, actually, everyone has good minion kills here for Coast.
They're doing a very good job keeping pace with CLG's ability to farm, despite all the roaming they've been doing.
Yeah.
It's rather impressive, and Shiphtur and DontMashMe are the ones who are going to have to capitalize on that, because they were the beneficiaries of the roam, and since the farm is equal, they're the only two people on the team that are actually much stronger than what CLG has been able to accumulate.
So we'll have to keep a look on these guys and see what they're up to, because Doublelift now is going to make life a bit more difficult for MashMe. He's frozen that bottom lane, so the rest of Coast have gone to the mid, but only Link is here to defend. However, that Orianna wave clear tends to be pretty strong. I don't know if Coast are going to get a lot more out of this one. Nintendu decides to go for the farm instead.
That's a very difficult lane for them to push, and that's a CLG thing here. We can see Doublelift isn't increasing anyone on CLG's ability on the map right now. He is actually a deterrent to CLG right now while freezing that lane. It's going to turn into something better later, but because Doublelift is in bottom lane farming, Coast was able to take that advantage in the mid lane with the turret.
Beautiful stuff. Then 2-1 on turrets. Now 2,500 gold for these guys. Pick comes off on the match. Will they go in? The flay comes back. Looks like no kill, though. They don't want to dive this one.
Link is out of mana right now, which is why they could not try a shockwave to turn that around, as well as Doublelift is still just farming. He's decided the lane freeze is over. He's shoving that up, and he actually has to get safe because there's a chance Coast could have went down for him.
You're right, there's no ward coverage actually for CLG on the right-hand side. Doublelift is going to recall back, but the pressure is still on this turret. Bubble does not quite land on a Chauster. True Shot Rush comes across. They're just keeping the turret alive, though, but now they've got to react to a big minion wave at the bottom side pushing towards them.
And this is just these teams battling with minion control against each other. We know CLG's objective is not fight, because they don't want to deal with ZionSpartan stand united. Again, he went with the Spear Visage and is going to have the cooldown reduction if Coast wants to try to turn anything in. Yet, right now, ZionSpartan's looks like he's using it reactively instead of Coast using it to go in for fights.
They haven't needed to, I suppose, because everything they've gone for, CLG's not defended it. Dragon they got without having to do anything. Mid lane they got because of the lane freeze. ZionSpartan's had the luxury of getting to stay in this lane. So this is all kinds of good for Team Coast as Zion, he's waiting around on the side. The bottom lane does get cleared out here. Yeah, Coast, I guess they can look again for a push pretty soon. They've got to worry about the mid lane. CLG are pushing in towards it.
If Nien keeps the pressure on ZionSpartan, then CLG is safe pushing up past dead turrets. But as soon as ZionSpartan isn't close to Nien, that's when Coast is going to do stand united on top of Ahri ultimate and go for an initiated team fight. So there's a lot of emphasis on Nien's Zac to keep up close to Zion for a while.
And he's going to stay in that lane. You're seeing the minions not separate at all. Nien stacking health right here. Giant's Belt and Ruby Crystal. Sure, Zion's got good regen with the Spirit Visage, but certainly you're not going to get rid of Nien anytime soon in those fights. And Coast, they're actually grouping up around the blue buff here. I feel like with their lead, they're looking for more things to steal away.
And I don't think CLG has the tools to contest this. They have a ward up, but they're not willing to risk that Ahri initiation that could potentially just be tidal waved and bubbled by Daydreamin's Nami. This is right now a pretty sweet situation for Coast to be in. They're just going to have to find creative ways of getting CLG out of their farm game.
And this is doing just so well, though, still for Coast. I mean, they're finding some openings every once in a while. They've now grown to 2,000 gold up there, and the red buff being taken. I want to see who it goes to, actually. If it's going to be, looks like it actually is just going to go to the jungler. So DontMashMe doesn't need it for the lane just yet. Only 14 minutes in. He's going to stay farming. Just a little bit of extra gank power for Nintendu with the slow. As ult comes across. Oh, you got it. He got it. Doublelift stole it. Doublelift, that was awesome.
That was pretty cool.
That was awesome.
True shot, one would say.
Yes, not a false shot right there. He definitely got blue. Great job. And of course, the early bloodthirsts are done as well. Before 15 minutes, you see him. He's got a really, really good minion score, honestly. 136 at 14 minutes or so. It's not bad at all. Certainly very high up there. So Doublelift still tends to be a big factor for CLG in these games. I don't think that surprises really anyone who's a fan of the team.
And he's went with that Bloodthirster variation on the blue Ezreal build. It turns it into the Doublelift Ezreal, I suppose, because he's not, he's cheating. He doesn't have all blue items. He's going to try to make that one work, as he's actually got to run away now because DontMashMe's on the charge.
Wow, he's already got Blade of the Rune King, just jumps in on Chauster, but here comes the pull.
Oh, this could be
not
bad.
Quite land. Here comes Shiphtur though on the side. Goes in, gets knocked into the air, but finds Chauster. Now can he find Doublelift? Good Arcane Ship gets him away. There comes the dunk as well from Jarvan. Flashes out, locks Shiphtur in, but the one kill was picked up. However, they have no minions to turn this one into anything else.
And Coast is trying to force CLG out of their farm lane, specifically Doublelift. But this is now giving CLG an opportunity, and they have to take it to get some of the turrets back.
And you're seeing the damage come down onto that one. ZionSpartan did use his ultimate, by the way, in that last battle. I don't think he showed... Am I just dumb and forgot where ZionSpartan went? He did use the ultimate, but I don't remember if he actually fought anyone in that battle.
He was bottom lane. He never. I don't think he made it in for much of a fight, but he was definitely trying to ult in.
Okay, okay. So Zion there left to hold up the scraps on that very pushed top lane right there. And Coast, though, still the early mid-game leaders right here, 60 minutes in, have another dragon in front of them. They're going to take this one down. And the bubble lands, guaranteeing no steal. The charm as well. Will they keep going in? Cocoon lands, and they just pile in. Big Fat LP falls down. You called it, Jat. CC into CC into CC.
And they're mostly single target CCs too. So if CLG can get into team fights, they're going to be able to abuse that Coast can only get one person at a time. But as long as CLG is playing this farm game, they're individually very vulnerable to getting locked down, which is why the game right now is so heavily in favor of Coast.
So a beautiful play then by Coast here to keep finding those openings, just tossing a bubble out, landing it, knocking into someone in the air. Nintendo had a really good one a while back onto Link. I do have to celebrate sort of the mechanical skill of these guys to land these max ring skill shots. When you're fighting
and
pros,
the timing too is very important.
Because the thing is, they're also both going to be in range at the same time. Like, no, I'll charm first, you wait, Nintendude. And it's just so cool to see. This is something that feels practice to these guys. And again, finding comps that work, practicing them, being prepared for them, so important.
And both these teams do have the full-time coaches. Elements for Team Coast, formerly of actually CLG, and then formerly of Team Curse. Hasn't been working out so well for Curse yet, but the team itself has a lot of faith, and they're saying they're losing for other reasons. So this is a practice thing. You're right.
Yeah, so beautiful stuff then. Turning themselves on at the very end of the split. You got to remember, though, we're at 2 weeks left here in the summer split, but each team has 8 games to play this weekend and in 2 weeks when we have week 9 here. So you're going to see a lot of movement in the standings for the guys that got ready finally in the sort of 11th hour at the end of the split right here. TSM, CLG both feeling confident. Coast felt very confident. Cloud9, of course, obviously not slowing down. But here we go, a team with coordination, with a good team comp, making moves. It's very good for them.
And if any team knows how to come together late season, it already is Team Coast.
Yeah.
Because at one point last split, they were 2-12. Then they made it into the playoffs as the 6th seed, and then they finished the season in 2nd. So they've been here before, and they've done this. Right now, Coach is in 7th. So this game, as we said before, is so important for them, and they're starting off great.
They are absolutely doing wonderfully here. 4,000 gold in the catch on the Doublelift. Repel comes across. Nintendo gets knocked into the air. The spider leaves the ignite. Oh, the barrier's so good from Doublelift. Will he survive? Nintendo has to dodge. Zion picks up a kill before the lantern can land, but Nintendo's been locked up. There comes the Shine Ult. Will that be enough to keep him alive? Nintendo's been exhausted. Knocked into the air. He's going to go down. ZionSpartan lands the taunt, but he's been forced to run away. It's a 1-for-1. Finally, CLG picks up a kill.
And there is a very slow fight in the bottom lane, but a very fast push in the top lane here. Coast, 3v1. Nien can't realistically go in for that, and CLG is in danger of losing a lot of their base here.
4 turrets have now gone down in Team Coast. What do they look for? Because Link actually will get a counter push here. The mid lane turret's going to go down, so CLG finds something, but look at Coast. They're controlling the jungle now. They stole the last blue buff. Now they're stealing this red buff. This is good for them.
Yeah, this is great to watch because Coast is putting such a heavy focus on 2 things right now. Pushing down turrets fast and stopping Doublelift as best they can. They're putting most of their resources into fights in the bottom lane and then pushing when CLG comes to support. What that's doing, though, is it's actually letting Link get going a little bit with his 176 farm on Orianna, we have to keep tracking this and see if all this play is worth it by Coast.
You're right. I remember pointing out some of the minion kill scores a while back where the AD carries were far and away above everyone else. While Shiphtur's been roaming, Link has caught up there. I just wanted to get the numbers out there to say, yes, he has been really growing by 30 or 40 at this point. MashMe wearing the double red buff. Not super useful aside from the first one, but at least he can refresh the timer on that one. I think
you only get one of those.
Yeah, I don't think they stack. I don't think it goes like to a deeper shade of red.
That'd be kind of cool.
Be interesting. Either way, though,
this is why we're not designers.
This is why we're not designers. You're at least kind of on live design.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Shiphtur, though, is going to be wearing a nice blue buff for this one. The last one, well, CLG's last one was at least taken by CLG, but Coast have taken 3 of the last 4 buffs now on the map, and they might use that for even more power. It seems like this is a team that keeps looking for fights.
And they need to push the tempo. They're doing a very good job of it so far. But at the same time, when CLG does get a 5v5 team fight, if the map shrinks, it's still going to be a difficult thing for Coast to pull off. CLG is most likely more ready if Coast were to do another 4 to 5-man push up the mid lane, and maybe then try to turn a fight around once that single target CC chain starts on somebody. If CLG can let that chain get absorbed essentially by Zach, who's becoming a very tanky man, then the rest of CLG's damage could break through and really wreak some havoc on Coast.
And it's fun to talk about that single target CC chain versus CLG's CC chain, because all their major players are area of effect based. Zach, Jarvan, Orianna, they'd love to get in a 5v5 and wreck people. So you're right, there's a lot of scariness available here in the team fight. So Coast, they've got to keep looking for these individual plays.
There is still a lot of emphasis on Coast to do well in this game. It's almost a more difficult composition to pull off when you're running such high risk, high coordination required single target CCs. And it means they have to continue to play well for the remainder of this game if they don't want to give up their lead.
And I think they know Doublelift's on the right-hand side right there if they wanted to look for a collapse. He's walking around some ward coverage. Twitch sneaking around towards the side. Nami as well. ZionSpartan keeps Nien locked up. One of those big players. bigfatlp looks for it as well. Zion! Wow, that was Spidey senses. He jumped away from that one. Doublelift forced to arcane shift. Getting hit up by Twitch. Nice ward across the wall by Daydreamin. No bubble, so no engage here. Coast right at the front door, but CLG are ready to defend.
And how well can CLG hold off this siege? They do not have a 1v1 answer entirely for ZionSpartan. CLG is torn right now as another dragon spawns and Coast is going to be able to take that one, because CLG needs Nien to eat the single target CC chain, but they also need him to match up against ZionSpartan and stop him from teleporting in. So he can't be in both places at once, and it's giving Coast advantages.
And ZionSpartan, again, just with the pressure of being on the map, does give them the dragon, as you said. And you're right, the advantages are still growing. The gold lead now, more than 5,000. We keep track of that one. It was 1,800 with the very first dragon, now 5,000 with, I believe, the third dragon at this point. They're certainly getting themselves farther ahead. The 5v5 still something that intimidates them. You notice that they're not diving compared to what for example, like Cloud9 did, where they were diving and starting fights all the time as a 5v5 based team. Coast are taking a different approach to the game.
It's mainly because of how dangerous the dives are against CLG. We even saw in CLG's game against Vulcan last week, where CLG was down close to 10,000 gold near the end of the game. They'd stretched out to about 40 minutes. And Vulcan tried one dive team fight in CLG's base, got 4-0'd, and then lost the game. So Coast knows how dangerous CLG can be late game, which is, I think, why they're not diving recklessly.
Chauster, though, he's trying to get some ward coverage. Can they get in range for a CC? Cocoon! It's going to land. They reveal him, but no one was quite there to follow up. Only 3 members of CLG were around. They actually wouldn't have gotten caught out too hard if they dived, but without a lot of information, nothing happens there. Doublelift, though, is going to get spotted by ZionSpartan. Zion sees him. Arcane Shift gets him away. Yeah, I think Ezreal's safe here.
I think so, too.
He's getting closer, actually.
That was so close. At the very least, he's not going to die.
That's true.
He is not at a point yet, though, Doublelift, where he can threaten ZionSpartan.
No. He walked at him through a minion wave.
Double needs at least 6,000 gold more. He needs to finish his Iceborne Gauntlets, which he just built the Sheen of, and then he also needs a Last Whisper. This is the long haul for CLG.
So 4K left for those 2 items then right now. Coast starting to control different parts of the map now as well. Now that we're 24 minutes in, it looks like they're starting to take ward control of the left-hand side jungle and the route to Baron.
And it's just in a matter of containing CLG. And I don't know I don't know how willing Coast is to try a Baron against bigfatlp because his track record of smites is so high.
But the catch comes off on a Daydreamin. This is not good for Na'Vi, getting knocked around. Has to flash away. Still does not pop her ult. It finally does. The catch comes on. Shockwave hits no one, though. This could be the re-engage here. Go in. Spray and pray still coming across. Looks like CLG, no, nothing's going to happen for the rest of this for Coast, because Zion didn't make it in.
No, they were able to kill Daydreamin before the Shen shield popped out. And it's actually kind of beneficial, because I think ZionSpartan would have died if he made it in. The Shockwave was actually hoping for ZionSpartan when they killed the target and it wasn't in. But now CLG, feeling confident, might get caught out by that CC chain.
They just find Chauster right there. He put the lantern down, hoping to scare him away. It's like, I have an Orion. No, you don't. No, you don't.
I don't have any friends in that situation. Friendship was not there to save him here.
Moo, I'm so sad for you right there, but no friends for Chauster either. ZionSpartan, look at them. They're just like gigantic flaming people not dying. Trading blows, healing back to full health over and over.
One of them trades a lot better right now.
That's true.
And that is ZionSpartan. He can obliterate Nien in the straight-up fight. And this is that track record of smites for bigfatlp. Can he make something happen here? Doublelift gives them a scout. And that's enough to scare out Coast. That was almost a bluff. The only thing CLG could use to scout that was the Jarvan flag. I guess the Orianna ball as well. So thinking about it again, Coast was smart to fall back.
You know what's interesting is you mentioned the bigfatlp smite tracker, and you're right, he's one of the best smiters in LCS. Nintendude's the other really good one. Those are the two guys who like I feel like have the most steals and have the most impressive steals. I actually want to see a smite battle between these guys.
They're both going to smite it at exactly the same time.
Both teams get Baron.
And we'll see everybody with Baron for the first time in LCS.
I don't know if there's ever teams that would do it. I think it's these guys. Bring in Cyanide to be safe, and then 15-man Baron from Fnatic. All right, guys. ZionSpartan, though, we saw him try to push down Nien. Unfortunately, he can't fight him under his turret. So Nien's actually pretty safe defending this one and not letting any major moves come in. And you keep track of those top laners. They've been equal the entire time. 13 minutes at this point, also pretty small. So you talk about CLG playing the farm game. They're keeping up in the farm game, straight up.
Absolutely. It's the objective game where Coast is trying to outpace them. And I actually feel like it's an overused term, like the ticking time bomb of CLG's composition, but that's what it is right now. If Doublelift can finish his items, I feel like that's when he's going to start picking up triple and quadra kills in these fights, because if CLG ever turns the tide on these fights, once Doublelift has the Iceborne Gauntlets and his Last Whisper, plus all the speed they get with Orianna, they're just going to chase down Coast and kill them in high control team fights, and that's what Coast needs to be terrified of right now.
They honestly should be. CLG is a team that pulls all kinds of crazy moves, but speaking of crazy moves, Coast was in with the Shadow, but they've got a pink ward down. The Jarvan, I don't know where he quite is on the map.
There's no Zac here as well, so even if CLG fights, it's a 4v5, and Big Fat has to go in for a completely single smite steal.
They've got to try for this one right here. The ball comes across. Blue team picks up Baron Nashor. That's a great pickup right there. bigfatlp knocked into the air, pulls the lantern though, and he's going to make his way out. But Baron picked up for Coast.
That was a very dangerous call by Coast, but a call I feel like they had to make. It's great that he was able to outsmite bigfatlp, and now we'll see what Coast can do with this push. He didn't outsmite him.
Nintendude queued it though. Nintendude outbursted bigfatlp. They did smite at the same time, but it was after Baron went down.
They smited at the same time, which was never, which was never smiting. So about that smite thing.
I'm a good fortune teller, Jat.
See, this is why. Hold on. This is why smiting is so difficult in League of Legends. Everyone thinks that like, oh, just wait for the health to go down to 800 or whatever your smite is at, and then hit the button. Little do they know, a lot of times that health never happens, because so much damage gets spiked onto the Baron at the very last second that sometimes you're smiting at 1500 to your reaction time, because it's going to get spiked from that point on. And at that point, both the junglers were a little bit off.
Yeah, I mean, Link Shockwave, like, it was a good time by Nintendo because he timed his Q for it. He did do the Q assassination, but Shockwave came across, Jarvan did some damage, Doublelift ulted by as well. You're right, I think it was hard, all right? Like, no smack talk to these guys, but the split push is back. And wait, I'm sorry, but ZionSpartan ulted into Baron, and it's already back.
What are you talking about?
ZionSpartan's ultimate, right? He ulted in.
There's no way he ulted into Baron. Because his cooldown, despite having the 20% CDR from a Spear Visage, it's still a 130-second cooldown.
It's been 2 minutes on Baron.
Yeah, but it was 123 seconds.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I don't think he would have done that.
I feel like okay. We're gonna move on, of course. So here we go, guys. The pressure on the top lane is here. The Baron buff being worn by Team Coast. He put down the pressure onto the minions, and they're looking for their next push with Zion still in the split.
Apparently you're right, Freak. He did ult into the Baron.
All right.
That's very
That Spirit Visage,
timing.
man. That Spirit Visage.
That's why all the Shens have been going for it nowadays. It's the windows that teams have to exploit you become much slower when you build that very high CDR item on Shen.
That's just a nice move, man. ZionSpartan's found a champion he's done well with, and it's good to see he's found something else to pick up. Second ban now required for Team Coast, I feel. And he's going to solo away this blue buff right here. 6-2 in kills, an 8,000 gold lead. Coast doing a very, very good job of continuing to strangle the map. You talk about the clock still ticking, and you're right.
Yeah.
But so far, every move they've made has worked out quite well.
I feel like the clock is actually ticking pretty fast on their Baron buff too. Because sure, the Baron buff is giving them extra gold advantage, but they didn't turn the Baron into any kills, which means they have to turn it into the objectives. And they've gotten all the easy turrets down so far. The hard ones are the ones that are defending the inhibitor, and that's the ones that CLG is the best at holding.
Yep.
Coast has about a minute left if they want to try one of those turrets, and I actually don't think they're going to be able to get it on this push. They might try, though.
So here comes the real test then. Can you get into Counter Logic Gaming's base? Let's see where these guys end up going. 3 members of the top lane. Shiphtur coming to rejoin them as well. ZionSpartan, though, still running across the map, so I don't know if they'll go in quite yet. The rest of CLG ready to wave clear. Bubble lands on a big fat. The CLG still holding their base strong. Coast, yeah, you're right. I don't know what the opening is. If CLG never leaves their base, there's no opening.
Yeah, especially since Zion hasn't even gotten the bottom lane to a point where it's pressuring any of the CLG turrets. CLG has no need to do anything. They know that fighting with Baron is a bad idea, even if they have all their AoE crowd control, unless Coast jumps on top of a turret and allows CLG free access to initiation.
I don't think we're going to let them do that. I feel like CLG are the kind of team that is very smart about the types of fights they look for.
Sometimes.
You're right.
They've had some struggles last week, actually,
That's fair.
against Curse, where they were very indecisive about their fights. And hopefully they've been able to remedy that a little bit this time, because this game, they've been very smart about fights they don't take.
And look at ZionSpartan. He puts one key strike and then goes, I don't want to get caught. He's being very defensive, very passive about taking damage right here, not wanting to get caught out at all. A little bit of Spiderling damage comes across. Doublelift forced to arcane shift around. A little bit of poke coming through. But actually, I feel like one difficulty here for Coast is MashMe doesn't get to hit turrets because he's so afraid of getting jumped on.
Exactly. Anything could crush MashMe at this point. He needs to save his range for spray and pray. And he's not going to use his ultimate on a turret just to get some damage on it. It's a difficulty of sieging with Twitch, and the Baron buff is gone now. So at this point, CLG will be more open to initiating a fight if they see an opportunity.
Oh, ZionSpartan, though. Oh, his Shadow Dash got knocked up there by Nien's E, but he's still above half HP, and a tanky Zac doesn't exactly burst a Shen out, so he gets to walk away and regen from this one. The stealth has just been used by DontMashMe. They're going to look for a little bit of a mini fight right here. Poke comes off on a Daydreamin. A little bit of poke. No engage just yet. The flag toss down. Nope. Just the wave clear again for CLG. But at least Coast doing a good job of getting the minion farm from every one of these lanes.
These teams are very touch and go. And ZionSpartan will eventually outsustain Nien because of that Blade of the Ruin King. But CLG is so close to their base, I don't really think Coast is going to be able to pick up advantages after that. This is a situation where Coast has to catch someone by CLG off guard to create a fight that can win them the game. The gold lead is accelerating at a pretty good point for Coast, where they're feeling safe right now, but they have to proceed with a lot of caution because of how much weaker compositionally their 5v5 team fight is.
Well, so far their split has been a little bit successful. That bottom lane inhibitor turret that ZionSpartan's been looking at is down to half HP. So some of that movement is getting made, some of that pressure is coming through, and they're taking things down. The blue and red buff has respawned for Coast, and Baron and Dragon respawn in 40 seconds. So even if they don't go for the base, they're going to find a couple more things to grab to push forward a little bit more. And I got to imagine both teams have this Baron timed.
That's actually where Coast could look to get some good things to happen, because if CLG wants to contest the Baron and or not contest the Baron and risk falling 15,000 gold behind, either way, that's where Coast will kind of get a bigger advantage. Doublelift is 1,000 gold away from his last Whisper right now, which is the point we identified as being what he needs to get to. But if he gets to that point and they're down 15,000 gold, it may just be too late.
You're absolutely right. So the Muramana completed as well, though. So maybe he can't put his team on his back. Maybe Link can do the same. He does have death cap. I mean, there's at least good items coming through for these guys. They just don't want to hit that 15,000 gold mark, as you mentioned. The Baron alive, and actually, interestingly, Coast rushing for it hard right here with Shen on the split.
And Link doesn't have his Void Staff. In fact, he has no magic penetration at all if we get a 5v5 fight here, but it seems clear that CLG's at least going to try another steal.
Nien wants to go in right here. The charm lands, and bigfatlp has not come across. Nien is alone right here. The Lantern comes across and saves him, but the team is
Round
still
two.
ready to battle. Here comes the smite. Blue team takes it. NintendudeX grabbing that one in style. And now, oh my god, that shockwave just stops Coast from chasing.
And again, a Baron smite off. This time, they both use the smite, and NintendudeX is the one to get it. So bigfatlp smited early. I think maybe it was actually the Q who got it. We never know.
I think it was Nintendude's Q.
We need Baron Death recap to tell us what got the last hit. But even so, that's what Coast needed, and unless CLG can heal up super fast, all home guard back, they're going to lose this turret.
A lot of pressure on it right now, down below half HP in the end, looking to initiate on, but they're going to wait for the kill first. The flash back from MashMe wanted to not get caught.
Ooh, no.
And the stun lands. The Lantern saves the end, and Coast have to think about, do they fight without Twitch ult?
That, if they could have caught Nien in that, they probably could have taken inhibitor, and then the team fight could have finished off the game, but that's how tense it is right now for CLG. They can't make another mistake, and Coast needs to keep playing this incredibly safe, well-measured game that they've done throughout. They have had to win two Baron wars, essentially, just seeing who can spike down the Baron faster in order to get to this point. But now that they're here, it's about capitalizing on it and taking down CLG in their base.
They're going to keep looking for it right here. I do want to compliment CLG, though. In every time they went for that, like, Baron steal, they never died. Like, he went in and tried to get, tried the smite, didn't get the smite, but ran into 5 people and got out.
Those were some of the safest Baron steal attempts I've ever seen. Thresh enabled them to do that, specifically because of the teamfight control CLG possesses. They can engage and disengage, but they're just not strong enough to fight straight up. Maybe they'll go for it here.
They're looking for the poke right there. Nintendude a little bit low on mana right here. The inhibitor down to half HP. Other waves not yet pushing out into the base. Pink ward comes down. That's going to get cleared out.
CLG might actually give this inhibitor up and try to hold the other ones. That's how dedicated they are to the late game, and knowing that if they lose one fight, the game is over.
I suppose if you're fighting a Baron buff, you'd rather fight under your own turret.
Yeah.
At least that one actually shoots back, unlike inhibitors.
2 inhibitors down is generally the breaking point. So we'll see it soon. I hope Coast will go for the second inhibitor as soon as possible.
We have half an hour to go at CLG.
I mean, I think they had like one of the longest pauses here in the LCS.
Yeah.
They've had the longest game of the season, and maybe they'll give Coast their longest run for their money.
They definitely have a chance this one. I mean, here we go. Nintendude and MashMe putting more damage. That turret dangerously low. I feel like CLG might want to fight for this one. But Nien's got no HP. Daydreamin gets caught.
There's no Orianna in this fight yet. CLG's fighting now.
Shen comes across. bigfatlp, nice tidal wave back as well. 1 kill picked up. Nien forced to flash away, burning down. Shiphtur gets the catch. 2 kills picked up. Flash shot lands on a Doublelift. Doublelift's trying to get away. Shockwave lands a bunch of damage. MashMe falls down, but so does Link. Oh, Ezreal catches 1, 2 for 3 so far in the fight, but Coast have enough to take the inhibitor down, and now Doublelift on the chase. Can he get Nintendude? This is not too good for Coast, honestly. Oh, Zion using Blade of the Ruin King to kite away.
That Blade of the Ruin King, Shen, giving them the escape, and that's the 2 inhibitors that Coast has taken down. It was a strange time to fight for CLG because the whole game, CLG had Nien countering ZionSpartan to stop that one. But during that fight, they had Link defending against ZionSpartan, and that didn't allow enough combo initiation for CLG, so they actually lost their front line by the time Link landed that good shockwave and ended up losing the fight 3 for 2. That still showed, though, the potential of that CLG team fight and why Coast took so long to go into the base.
It's definitely a scary team here for Counter Logic Gaming, and I know you talked about the second inhib down being a big breaking point, but at the very least, if I have my numbers right, the inhibs will be back more or less by the time Baron respawns, and maybe that just gives CLG enough map presence to be okay. Doublelift forced to run away from ZionSpartan. Certainly he's having a rough time of this one. The Shen, 1-0-4, pretty scary dude. CLG still trying to farm back up.
You could say this game is slightly lower kill than our last one.
A little.
Yeah, last one is a 34-minute game with about 3 million kills.
Yes.
This one's a little longer with slightly fewer kills. And
more minion kills at least.
There's many more minion kills.
So if you like those.
CLG does lead the league by a substantial margin in minion kills, just because of the length of their games and because the style they play. They just love to farm.
Yeah, the mechanical skill certainly very high up there as well, but Zion is looking at the front door of the Nexus itself. His ult about 5 seconds away from being up, and he just kind of feints away from Doublelift. Look at that, puts more damage down to half.
And Coast doesn't need to wait for the Baron because the minions are providing so much for them right now. Doublelift trying to stop ZionSpartan, that's a hard duel.
This is a very difficult fight for Double. Tries to kite this one out. Oh, he gets it. Doublelift 1v1 against ZionSpartan, and there's the engage on the other side. 4v4. Nien, nope, just going to get Lantern back in. Doesn't want the fight, but that's big for CLG.
Doublelift kind of saved the day there. If he wasn't able to kill ZionSpartan 1v1 and at least make it seem like ZionSpartan would want to stay in that fight with him, that 4-man push would have just overtaken this third CLG inhibitor and effectively ended the game for Coast. But because he held them off, it might give CLG enough time for those inhibitors to respawn.
So here we go. Dragon is up, Inhib's coming up soon. Baron a minute and a half away. We'll see what the openings end up being here as DontMashMe, though. For what it's worth, Coast still do have control over both jungles. This is something they've actually been controlling very successfully now for the last, I would say, 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah. And it's helped them get a bit of an extra lead here. Doublelift, I don't think, has worn a red buff like all game.
But at least he's got the Iceborne Gauntlets, so he doesn't care anymore. He's wearing the Iceborne Gauntlets. Yeah. I was going to say, like, he's wearing a bluish buff because they're blue, but that would just get way too confusing. That was the true shot we talked about earlier.
Sick blue buff steal.
With the Baron coming up in a minute, I feel like Coast isn't going to try what they just did again with ZionSpartan and instead go for the next Baron. I don't think CLG will be able to contest the next Baron either, only because the super minions will have such strong presence in their base. But once again, that low cooldown, and because ZionSpartan didn't use his stand, he died in the last fight. You know, maybe I was just saying that for nothing, and Coast is going to go right now. CLG might not let him.
They get the cocoon, though, on to land. Nien does not want to initiate. The bubble lands on it. Holy crap, the damage there from Shiphtur. This could be the opening. Pull lands on a Nintendo, but he is a tanky spider. Repels into the air, jumps down to that one lone minion. Double will not get to follow up, so that is an Ezreal down.
Even though Baron is up in 15 seconds, this could be a great opportunity for Coast to go in. They win this fight, they win the game.
The turret down low on HP. They've got minions as well. Cocoon does not land. They've got to be aware of the shockwave. They catch Chauster. Shockwave does not land onto anyone, and one goes down. The initiation onto MashMe. MashMe is safe, though, and into the back line goes ZionSpartan, locking up Doublelift. So many kills picked up right here for Team Coast, and they are just destroying the CLG lineup. Shiphtur forced to run away from Nien. This might be a kill picked up for CLG. Big shutdown right there, but control over the inhibitor is Coast. They've got a 4 versus 3. They've got Rain over the base.
And they're able to get the respawn on the inhibitors as well, which are now indefensible after the lost fight by CLG. Coast actually can't end it right now, I don't think, because CLG has 3 carries up, but it's definitely going to be close.
They're looking to do at least some damage. They're riding in off the super minions. Nintendo looks for a little bit of wave clear right there. A bit of poke coming across, but that Doublelift, it's scary. The bubble does not land. They get some damage, though. Nien comes on in. Zion a bit low. Nien still getting chased down, getting smaller and smaller. Good true shot barrage comes across.
And the minion waves are coming in faster and faster. Coast finally backing off, but the minion waves are going to be what keeps CLG in their base for the long term. And
they're just running away. Zion getting away safely right there. Doublelift forced to defend a bit. One of the inhibitor does come back on, and we're about to hit that average CLG game right here.
Yeah, just an average game.
Just an average game for CLG. No big deal. And now
450 minion kills on Doublelift.
Yeah, not
it's a walk in the park.
Standard stuff. Standard stuff for these guys. And actually, despite how long that game has been, he's still kept up with the 10 minions per minute. It's that mark that's like, yeah, you've been farming really well. You've gotten 10 per minute right here.
But as we saw in the pre-match, DontMashMe has the performance against CLG. So even though CLG's been giving Doublelift more of the farm, DontMashMe actually has more gold than Doublelift right now. He's at almost 17,000 gold on Twitch, highest gold in the game. And you can't argue against Coast's performance here. They have been playing it safe. So when they do win this game, which I feel like it's almost in the bag at this point, they should feel very satisfied with it.
And Daydreamin puts up enough wards to make sure no true shot bronze will steal. So nothing's going to land this time. Nintendo does smite this one away. And there we go. Third Baron now for Team Coast. They could clean up Dragon, but it just is not worth it for them. They look instead towards what looks like the middle lane.
The last stand here for CLG. I almost feel like the minions are more of a problem than Coast at this point, because when you have so many minion waves just knocking down on your base, it becomes exceedingly difficult to clear this away. CLG, if they can find an opportunity, should actually try to do a hard initiate before Coast can set up their minion wall.
They might just go in. Here he goes. He gets the shot in front of MashMe. MashMe forced to run backwards, gets a stand united, but there comes a dunk in from Jarvan. Nintendo, though, just getting into the fray of everybody. 1 kill picked up on a big fat LP. The box comes across from Chauster. They want to kite on back. Double kill picked up for MashMe as he takes down the Zac as well. And now Doublelift has been slowed. Has to cut away from Nintendo. Does not land the stun right there, but Ruin King's going to let him kite back. ZionSpartan lands the taunt. The play comes across. Triple kill for DontMashMe. And this is going to be the game. Team Coast finally closing it out, finding the opening they wanted, and this is going to be their nexus.
And Coast now moves to 3-0 on the season against CLG, and a much-needed win for Coast. They come into this week in 7th place and need to position themselves now for the playoffs. That win means so much for Coast.
Exactly. It ties them for 6th with Dignitas. They are now, as long as they just hold on, if they can beat Dignitas in a heads-up match, if they have one left in the season, they can pretty much guarantee themselves a playoff spot. If Coast wins out, they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, that was a really well-played game, though. You look at this, you look at the players, that's relief on their faces.
It was, CLG definitely made Coast work for that one.
Oh, yeah.
This was a very close to CLG's game at the end of last week against Vulcan, except this time, CLG never got that team fight to turn it around because Coast was always playing it smartly and had the Baron control, which that was the deciding point in this game, really, because CLG was stalling it out to at least make it a game of smites, and NintendudeX and the rest of Coast, whether or not he always got his smite off, won it.
Did manage to take them. I think he did actually get killing blow, at least for all of them,
yes.
So might not have been smite, but Nintendo got it himself. Good
smite?
play. Good play by him. So very good job then by Team Coast. And after that, we've got to take a short break. But when we return, Team Coast's Daydreamin will join us.